Hey everybody, welcome back to another EDH video. Today's video is day 24 of 25 days of deck building. So we're almost there, one more day and we'll be there. And we are building around Winter Misanthropic Guide. It's a one generic and a Jund, which is black, red, and green. Legendary creature Human Warlock from Duskmourn has Ward 2, which they like to staple on every creature for some reason now. And at the beginning of your upkeep, each player draws 2 cards. It has Delirium, as long as there are 4 or more card types among cards in your graveyard. Each opponent's maximum hand size is equal to 7 minus the number of those card types. That's a 3/4. So this is just going to be a toxic deck. Yes, I'm building it very toxic. If you don't like toxic decks, just click off the video at this point, to be honest. I'm building it pretty similar to, the Grixis wheel guy. What's his name? Nekusar, the Mind Racer. I'm building it very similar to that, minus the blue plus the green. So let's get right into what's actually inside the deck, because that's what's important. So first up, we're going to have some ramp. As per usual, we're going to have a pretty standard ramp. We're in green, so we're going to have some creature ramp. We're going to have Arcane Signet first up, though. We're going to have 2 generic, add 1 mana of any color, and your commander's color entity, so a red, green, or black. So that makes a lot of sense. Then we got Birds of Paradise, 1 green, flying, add 1 mana of any color. So I mean mainly red, green, or black. An 0/1 bird flying, you can block a flyer late game. Then we got Command Sphere, 3 generic, add 1 mana of any color in your commander's color identity, and you can also sacrifice it and draw a card to get that extra card type into your graveyard very easily. We have Deathrite Shaman, a Golgari hybrid, creature elf shaman, exile target land card from a graveyard, add 1 mana of any color, or tap a black, exile target instant or sorcery card from a graveyard, each opponent loses 2 life, or tap a green, tap a exile target creature card from a graveyard, you gain 2 life. It's a 1/2. Then we have Delight of Halfling, 1 green, tap it for a colorless. Then you can also tap it, add 1 mana of any color, spend this mana only to cast a legendary spell, and that spell can't be countered. It's a 1/2, so screw you, Orcish Bowmasters. We have Dark Ritual, not really a ramp, but it's 1 black and add 3 black. It's a ritual, it's what its name is. But then we have Farseek, 1 green, and a generic. Search a library for a plains, island, swamp, or mountain card, put it on the battlefield tip, then shuffle. So this will search us for 2 of our land types, swamp or mountain. The other 2 don't really matter. Harrow, 2 generic and a green. As an additional cost to cast a spell, sacrifice a land. You may search your library for up to 2 basic land cards, put them on the battlefield, then shuffle. Let's get us an instant into the graveyard and also a land into the graveyard, which is 2 card types. We have Ignoble Hierarch, 1 green, exalted. Whenever a creature you control attacks alone, that creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn, but it also taps for a Jund, which is black, red, or green. Then we have Invasion of Zendikar. Whenever it enters the battlefield, search your library for 2 basic land cards and put them onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. I have it sideways, but it's not going to be sideways whenever you guys watch it, because I'm going to fix it. But it's also a battle, so it's a type. We have Mindstone, 2 generic, tap it for a colorless, or tap a colorless and tap it, sacrifice it and draw a card, gets itself into the graveyard, another card type, it's an artifact. That's the only thing that we have it in there for, really. They also ramp and draw a card. Nature's Lure, 1 generic and a green, search your library for a force card, put it on the battlefield, then shuffle. Comes in untapped. Nature's Lure, pretty good standard stuff. Soul Ring, 1 generic, tap it for 2 colorless. Soul Ring, I don't know what else to say about it. It'll probably be in our graveyard because people usually destroy it. We have Thought Vessel, 2 generic, you have no maximum hand size, and you tap it for a colorless. Our opponents aren't going to have a hand, but we are. So that's what really matters here. Then we have 3 visits, 1 generic and a green. Search the library for a force card, put it on the battlefield, then shuffle. This is basically a Nature's Lore, but the same thing, just a different art. Literally, I think it's literally the exact same word. We have Wayfarer Bauble, 1 generic. It's an artifact. You can tap 2, sacrifice it, and search the library for a basic land card, put it on the battlefield, then tap, then shuffle. It gets itself into the graveyard. That's why it's in here. Removal. We have some pretty good removal. We have Abrupt Decay. It's a Golgari. Can't be countered by spells or abilities. Then you return target or destroy target non-land permanent with converted mana cost 3 or less. One of the best removal spells in the format. Then we have Assassin's Trophy, Golgari. Destroy target permanent and opponent controls. Its controller may search their library for a basic land card, put it on the battlefield, then shuffle. Another one of the best removal spells in the game, especially in Golgari. Assassin's Trophy is really good. Then we have Culling Ritual, 2 generic and a Golgari. Destroy each non-land permanent with mana value 2 or less. Add a swamp or a black or green for each permanent destroy this way. Counts your own also, but counts everybody else's. Can actually get you like 12 mana, honestly. Haywire Might, 1 generic. Whenever it dies, you gain 2 life, but you can also pay a green, sacrifice it, target non-creature or exile target non-creature artifact or non-creature enchantment. An artifact creature sacrifices itself, gets itself into the graveyard, counts as 2 card types. Nature's Claim, 1 green, destroy target artifact or enchantment its controller gains 4 life. Obnixilis, the Hate Twisted, 3 generic, 2 black. Whenever an opponent draws a card, Obnixilis deals 1 damage to that player. You also -2 it and destroy target creature. Its controller draws 2 cards. So we want them to be drawing cards because they're gonna have no maximum hand size, or they're the opposite of a hand size. We have Strip Mine, destroy target land whenever you sacrifice it. It gets itself into the graveyard. You can also tap for colorless. Lands are pretty easy to get into the graveyard. That's why it's in here. You just, get a land card type in there. Terminate, it's a Rakdos, destroy target creature. It can't be regenerated. It's a black and a red. Rakdos, same thing, whatever you want to call it. Toxic Deluge, I've been putting in all my decks because you know why? It's super cheap now. 2 generic and a black as an additional cost to cast a spell, pay X life. All creatures get -X until end of turn. I don't actually know if it's cheaper now. I think it was like $6 last time I checked, but we have Vandal Blast, 1 red, destroy our artifact you don't control, or overload it and destroy each artifact you don't control. Can kill everybody's artifacts. It doesn't really matter. Blasphemous Act, 8 generic and a red, but we're never going to pay that. Usually going to pay like 2 colorless and a red, or generic and a red, and it deals 13 damage to each creature because, and it's costs 1 less for each creature on the battlefield. That's what it's going to cost less. We have Wheels, discard, and Mill. Angrath, Flame Chain, 3 generic and a Rakdos. +1, each opponent discards a card and loses 2 life. -3, gain control target creature until end of turn. Untap it, gains haste until end of turn. Sacrifice at the beginning of the next end step if it had to convert mana cost 3 or less. Or -8, each opponent loses life equal to the number of cards in his or her graveyard. And it starts at 4 loyalty, so it's going to be hard to get it up there, but it is going to get there eventually. Burning Inquiry, 1 red. Each player draws 3 cards, then discards 3 cards random. So it's each player, it includes you. But it's really good at a turn 1 play. They keep a Soul Ring, Arcane Signet. No, discard that crap. Now you got 1 land and a 7 mana spell. I don't know. I think it's funny. Dark Deal, 2 generic and a black. Each player discards all the cards in his or her hand, then draws that many cards -1. If we have Winter out, this is just going to be like, hey, now we have all the card types. Woohoo! Davril, Rogue, Shadow Mage, 2 generic and a black. We can have each opponent's end step if that player has 1 or fewer cards in hand. Davril, Rogue, Shadow Mage deals 2 damage to them. You can -1, target player discards a card. Starts at 3 loyalty. You can only do that 3 times. We have Fate Unraveler, 3 generic and a black. Whenever an opponent draws a card, it deals 1 damage to that player. An enchantment creature, Hag, of 3/4. It's an enchantment creature, so when it dies, it counts as 2 card types. That's kind of why I have it in here. Quantum Mythos, 4 generic artifact. At the beginning of each player's draw step, that player draws 2 cards. Draws 2 additional cards. Not 2 cards, draws 2 additional. So they're drawing 3, which they're going to have no hand size, so they're going to just discard all of them. We have Gaia Reach Sanitarium, tap it for a colorless, or tap 2 and tap it. Each player draws a card, then discards a card. So each player loots kind of just like a little bit of, messing around with their hand. Nat Miser, 1 black. Each opponent's maximum hand size is reduced by 1. So you turn 1 play this, it's going to be, everybody's going to hate you. Then we have Invasion of Eldraine. Whenever it enters the battlefield, target opponent discards 2 cards. It's a battle, so it's a card type. I don't know what it flips to, honestly. I don't think it matters that much. It flips into a 2/2 that does something. We have Howling Mine, 2 generic. At the beginning of each player's draw step, if Howling Mine is untapped, that player draws an additional card. So the untapped part doesn't really matter because it's never going to be tapped, I don't think. And the drawing additional card's good. Kendrick Parasite, 1 black. Whenever an opponent draws a card, if you control a red permanent, you may have Kendrick Parasite deal 1 damage to that player. We are in red colors, so that checks out. We have Locust Miser, 2 generic, 2 black. Each opponent's maximum hand size is reduced by 2. So maximum, we can just make them have -3 cards with our commander. Just kidding. I don't think that's the thing. We have Lord Windgrace, 2 generic and a Jund. Legendary Planeswalker Windgrace, just +2 discard a card, then draw a card. If a land card is discarded this way, draw an additional card. -3, return up to 2 land cards from your graveyard to the battlefield. -11, destroy up to 6 target non-land permanents, then create 6 2/2 green cat warrior creature tokens with Force Walk. It can be your commander. But we basically have it in here to discard stuff and then draw. And then also, it's a Planeswalker, so it's a card type. So if it gets destroyed, guess what? We have an additional card type in there. Also, it's Lord Windgrace. I think everybody loves this guy. He's cool, right? Master of the Feast, 1 generic, 2 black. Enchantment creature, so it has 2 card types on it. And it's flying. At the beginning of each upkeep, each opponent draws a card. It's a 5/5 for 3. I don't really know. I mean, it's a 5/5 for 3 is pretty good, and especially in this deck. Okay, Miko Koro, Center of the Sea, tap it for a colorless, or tap 2, tap it, each player draws a card. So we're giving our opponents advantage. This is group hug, and you know, I don't know, people aren't gonna be mad at us. Molten Psych, 1 generic, 2 red. Each player shuffles the cards from his or her hand in his or her library, then draws that many cards. If you control 3 or more artifacts, it deals damage to each opponent equal to the number of cards that player has drawn this turn. We do this on our turn, which is a sorcery, we have to, so it'd be like, they'll take 9. Razorkin Needlehead, 2 red, has first strike during a turn, and whenever our opponent draws a card, it deals 1 damage to them. It's a 2/2, Human Assassin from Duskmorn. Reforge the Soul, 3 generic, 2 red. Each player discards his or her hand, then draws 7 cards. It also has Miracle, so 1 and a red. You may cast this card for its Miracle cost if it's the first card you draw on this turn. So it can be 2 mana or 5 mana. Yeah, Ripples of Undeath, 1 generic and a black. At the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, mill 3 cards. Then you may pay 1 generic and 3 life. If you do put that card from among those cards into your hand. We just want this for the mill to get our card types in there. Scrawling Crawler, 3 generic. At the beginning of your upkeep, each player draws a card, and then whenever an opponent draws a card, that player loses 1 life. It's also an artifact creature, so it counts as 2 card types for our commander's ability. We have Sizen, Perverter of Truth, 3 generic, 2 black, legendary creature, Demon Spirit. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player loses 2 life and draws 2 cards. So now they're drawing 4 on our upkeep with this out with our commander. So I think that's pretty funny. That's 6/5 for 5. You know, Demon Spirit. You have Shoulder of the Apocalypse, 2 generic, 2 black. Whenever you draw a card, you gain 2 life. When our opponent draws a card, they lose 2 life. Legendary creature, Phyrexian Praetor, Death Touch, 4/5. We all know what Shoulder does. She's kind of broken. Also, the art is just freaking creepy as heck. Like, man, what the heck's going on right there? We have 6, 2 generic and a green, legendary creature, Treefolk. Reach, whenever it attacks, mill 3 cards. You may put a land card from one of those into your hand. Then, as long as it's your turn, non-land permanent cards in your graveyard have Retrace, which means you can cast them by discarding a land and paying their other costs. Spiteful Visions, 2 generic and a Rakdos hybrid. At the beginning of each player's draw step, that player draws an additional card, and whenever a player draws a card, Spiteful Vision deals 1 damage to that player. So this is just the best of both worlds. This is just Nekusar on an enchantment, pretty much. We have Stormfist Crusader. It's a Rakdos Menace Human Knight. At the beginning of your upkeep, each player draws a card and loses a life. So along with our commander, where each player is drawing 3 cards and losing 1 life. We have Teferi's Puzzle Block, 4 generic. At the beginning of each player's draw step, that player puts the cards in his or her hand at the bottom of his or her library in any order and draws that many cards. I feel like this is people hate this card a lot, but this card's good in here. Woohoo! Just messes people's hands up. Underworld Dreams, 3 black, enchantment. Whenever an opponent draws a card, Underworld Dreams deals 1 damage to that player. So on our upkeep, we have this out. Each opponent takes 2, pretty much. That's the whole thing of the deck. Waste Not, 1 generic and a black. Whenever an opponent discards a card, discards a creature card, you create a 2/2 black zombie. Whenever an opponent discards land, you create 2 black mana. Whenever an opponent discards a non-creature, non-land, draw a card. We have this in here because they're gonna have no hand size. So Wheel of Misfortune, 2 generic and a red. Each player secretly chooses a number 0 or greater. Then all players reveal those numbers simultaneously and determine the highest and lowest numbers revealed this way. Wheel of Misfortune deals damage equal to the highest number to each player who chooses that number. Each player who didn't choose the lowest number discards their hand, then draws 7 cards. We have Winds of Change, 1 red. Each player shuffles the cards from their library from their hand into their library, then draws that many cards. I couldn't read that card for some reason, but it's basically just a 1 mana Wheel of Fortune, I think. Winter Cynical Opportunist, 2 generic and a Golgari, legendary creature, Human Warlock. Death Touch, whenever Winter attacks, mill 3 cards. And then at the beginning of your end step, you may exile any number of cards from your graveyard with 4 or more card types among them. If you do, put a permanent card from among them onto the battlefield with a Fanatic counter. I mainly want it because it's another Winter, and it also attacks and mills. Red and 7, 3 generic, 2 green. Legendary Planeswalker. Reveal the top 4 cards of your library. Put all lands reveal this way into your hand and the rest into your graveyard. 0. Put any number of land cards from your hand onto the battlefield tapped. -3. Create a green Treefolk creature will reach this equal. The power and toughness equal to the number of lands you control. -8. Return all permanents from your graveyard to your hand. You get an emblem when you have no maximum hand size. Random. Thrill of Possibility. 1 generic and a red. As an additional cost to cast a spell, discard 2 cards. So if you discard something other than an instant, you get 2 card types in your graveyard. That's the whole point. Invasion of Mercadia, 1 generic and a red. Enters the battlefield, you may discard a card. If you do, draw 2 cards. So if you discard a card, you get a card type in your graveyard, but it's also a battle that's, I don't know, get into your graveyard. Invasion of Ikoria, X and 2 green. Enters the battlefield, search the library or graveyard for a non-human creature card with mana value X or less. Put it on the battlefield. If you search the library this way, shuffle. Flips into an 8/8, but we don't really care about that, to be honest. Invasion of Urgar, dude, I don't know. That's a Gruul. Whenever it enters, you create a treasure token. Then you may discard a card, and if you do, draw a card. Starts off at 5 battle points, or whatever the heck they're called. And I don't know the names of those 5 battle points. I don't know. I don't even know what the Urgarmon is. Faithless Looting, 1 red, draw 2 cards and discard 2 cards. So this gets a sorcery into your graveyard, but can also get 2 other card types, and they can flash back it, and it leaves your graveyard, but gets exiled. So I don't know. Entomb, 1 black, search your library for a card, put it into your graveyard, then shuffle. This gets an instant and literally whatever card type you want. It can get 3 card types total because you can get an enchantment creature or anything really. Crop rotation, 1 green. Search your library for a land card, put that on the battlefield, but you have to sacrifice a land as an additional cost. So this gets 2 card types into your graveyard. Unless you have like an Urza Saga, then it gets both enchantment, land, and instant or whatever. Cathartic Reunion, 1 generic and a red. As an additional cost to cast a spell, discard 2 cards and draw 3 cards. So this can get 3 total card types into your graveyard. So artifact, it could actually get 4 if you discard an enchantment creature and an artifact. And then that. We have forest, times 2 forests, times 2 mountains, 2 mountains, 2 forests, 2 swamps. We keep it even around here, even Steven. We got Zeotor's Proving Ground, Swamp, Mountain, Forest, taps for black, green, or red. Enters battlefield tapped, but also has cycling, so you can discard it and draw a card. Gets card types. Woodland Cemetery enters the battlefield tapped, unless you control a swamp or a forest. Taps for a black or green. Just a little bit of fixing there. Volatile Whispers, artifact land. Tap it for a black. As an artifact land, so whenever it dies, you can or mill it or whatever. It counts as 2. Tree of Tales, artifact land. It's taps for a green. You know it's a card type. That's why it's in here. You can mill it, and it's a card type. Underground Mortuary enters battlefield tapped, but it enters battlefield and surveil 1. So you can put something in your graveyard. Gets your card type in there. Undergrowth Stadium enters battlefield tapped unless you have 2 or more opponents. Taps for a black or a green. The other one also tapped for a black or a green. I forgot to say that. But then we have Twisted Landscape. Tap it for colorless, or tap it, sacrifice it, search it for a basic swamp, mountain, forest, put it on the battlefield, tap, then shuffle. Gets it into your graveyard, but you can also cycle it for those colors and discard it. Terraforming Expanse, sacrifice it, search your library for a basic land card, put it on the battlefield, tap, then shuffle. Gets it into your graveyard. Fire Guardian enters the battlefield tap unless you control 2 or more opponents, or have 2 or more opponents. Sorry, I will say control. Taps for a red or a green. Slagwood's Bridge enters the battlefield tapped. Indestructible, taps for a red or a green. Artifact land. We can play these as lands, but mainly just want to mill them. Shifting Woodland enters the battlefield tapped unless you control a forest, and then it taps for a green, but it also has Delirium, much like our commander, and it says 2 and 2 green. Shifting Woodland becomes a copy of target permanent card in your graveyard until end of turn. Activate only if there are 4 more card types among cards in your graveyard. Look, this is a perfect spot for this, or a perfect deck for this card, because this card seems good in the Delirium deck. I don't know what I'm trying to say. But we have Rootbound Crag, enters battlefield tapped unless you control a mountain or a forest. Taps for a red or a green. Getting that fixing out there, getting both colors. Reliquary Tower, you have no maximum hand size. Tap for a colorless. We have this because we are gonna have no maximum hand size, but they're not our opponents. Aquos Theater is a surveil land, so you can surveil something and put it into your graveyard. It gives card types. Enters tapped. Taps for a red or a black. Luxury Suite enters battlefield tapped unless you have 2 or more opponents. Taps for a black or a red. Yeah, these lands are good. Most of the time they're coming in untapped. Evolving Wilds enters, sacrifice this land, search a library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle. Dryad Arbor, land a creature, so it's 2 creature type or 2 card types. But also you can play it as a land if you want, and it's a creature. Dross Forge Bridge enters battlefield tapped, indestructible, taps for a black or green as an artifact land, so it counts as 2 card types. We kind of have to run these bad cards. I don't know why. Dragon Skull Summit enters battlefield tapped unless you control a swamp or a mountain. Taps for a black or a red. Dark Moss Bridge enters battlefield tapped. Indestructible. Taps for a black or a green. Artifact land. It's an artifact land. Dackmore Salvage enters battlefield tapped. Tap it for a black. Has Dredge too, so instead of drawing, you can mill 2 cards and put this into your hand. We have Commercial District. It's a surveil land, so you can put the top card into your graveyard. You don't already have that card type in there pretty much. It taps for a red or a green. Jukabog enters battlefield tapped, enters exile target player's graveyard, and you add a black. So you're going to probably do this with your opponent's graveyards. You don't want to hit your graveyard. We have Ash Barrens, basic land cycling, so you can discard it and search your library for a basic land card, put it on your hand, and then shuffle. So it gets a land into your graveyard. And then that's it. Yeah, this is the winter deck. This is what is it? What's Jund? Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope you guys enjoyed the last video, 25 days of deck building, which comes out tomorrow. Anyways, follow me on Discord, or join the Discord server. Follow me on Blue Sky. Follow me, subscribe, like the video. Nobody ever makes it here, so comment down below if you made it here. You're the real, true 1%. Yeah, comment skibbity boop or something like that. I don't know. Peace out.